What's up, Warriors fans, and welcome back to Warriors Latest. As always, I am your host, Max Arizin. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you enjoy the show today, as I do post new Warriors videos daily, and it does help the show continue to grow as the season moves along. Now, I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat this in any way whatsoever. Last night was embarrassing to watch. I watched through the first three quarters and I had to turn it off. It was so bad. And it made me realize that everything I've been saying is true. The Warriors are pretenders right now because they haven't addressed the real issue. Yes, we let Jonathan Kuminga linger on in free agency instead of committing to other players and knowing what to do with those players. We made some small-time additions, but you can't keep using the same formula over and over and over again and expect different results, especially when the league itself is changing. We look back 10 years ago. The Warriors changed the paradigm when they went to small ball. Unfortunately, that paradigm has now shifted back to its, or self-corrected back to its big man promoted game. And last night was a perfect example of that because this is the second loss in 3 games against a true playoff team with a true big as well as true bigger stars. We look at this entire stat sheet, and Jonathan Kuminga led the way for the Warriors with 13 points. And that's just unacceptable. Looking at the rest of the box score, Steph only had 11 and didn't play over 20 minutes. If your star player isn't playing over 20 minutes, that's a problem. And looking at the rest of it, Trace Jackson Davis, Santos, Buddy Hield, Gary Payton Jr., or Gary Payton II, Moses Moody, they're like the entire bench played. And you know what? Not a single one of them was a center outside of Quentin Post. And you can't expect Quentin Post, who only played 17 minutes, to guard both Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein in the post. And looking at Chet Holmgren, he had a field day. He had 23 points in 25 minutes. What was he? All stats. He had 11 rebounds, 1 on the offensive board, so there's a double-double. And he went 9 for 9 from the floor. Like, that cannot happen, especially when it's a 7-footer. And the Warriors they're so delusional that they don't even see their error in their ways. I don't know if it's Joe Lacob making these decisions. I don't know if it's Mike Dunleavy making these decisions. But it's obvious something has to be done now because this is not a championship team. And there are numerous issues that need to be addressed, but right now the biggest one is in the front court. They need somebody who can guard these types of guys in the front court. Like, they need to get bigger. They need to start hoarding big men by any means necessary. I don't care who it is. They need to bring in some more 7-footers because, remember, this is the first game in a very long road trip, and it's not going to get any easier when you have a game tonight against the Spurs. You have a game on Friday against the Spurs, both in San Antonio, mind you, and you have to go up against the likes of Wemby. You have to go up against the likes of a rejuvenated De'Aaron Fox. You have to go up against the likes of a strong defensive presence in Steph Castle, Devin Vassell, and Keldon Johnson coming off the bench. Jeremy Sokin running it at the 4. And what are you going to do in that situation when Wemby's getting 4 or 5 blocks on every single one of your players, and Wemby could just be put on Steph and just completely lock him down? And looking at these numbers from the last game, if Steph's only playing 20 minutes, Jimmy Butler's only playing 22, and Draymond's only playing 20-plus minutes, that's a big problem that needs to be addressed quickly. Because if it's not, I mean, it's going to be a very, very, very long season, and it's going to be tough to watch, and it's going to just be exhausting throughout. And, I mean, you don't want to see an exhausting season. You want to see a team that actually is vying for a playoff spot and actually knows what they're doing. A team that acts like, okay, we're here to play, we're contending for a championship. The way the roster is constructed now, it isn't. Now, we look out for some guys that are potentially available. As I've said, Vucevic is probably going to be out there depending on how well or how hot the Bulls continue to be. The Warriors can make an early move trading Hield and Moody for him and get rid of some long-term contracts while giving the Bulls a little bit more incentive to build around with that, because Moody, he's showing that he's an actual NBA player. He's a good role player. He's got starter potential. You put him next to the likes of Josh Giddey, I think they could do very well together. And with the way the Bulls are structured, it's pretty much going to be a crater of cap space next offseason, where they're going to continue to build on from there. So having a guy like Moody who's established isn't the worst thing in the world. For Hield, he's just an easily tradable contract off the bench who can provide instant offense, and I do like that. So that does well for the Bulls to help bring back a guy like Nikolai Vucevic. And on top of that, the Bulls already have two big men. They have Vucevic and they have Zach Collins. So at least they have a fallback option if they decide to move on from Vooch. So I see that. They could go after the likes of DeAndre Drummond, but they got to do something. Like, this is going to be a serious concern as the season continues to go along, and we don't need a repeat of last year. We all heard what Draymond said during the initial press conference on Media Day. He doesn't want to see the Warriors play behind the 8 ball, and neither do I. But changing it up to the Spurs tonight, it's not going to be easy. Maybe last night was a fluke. Maybe I'm wrong. And you know what? The Warriors come out just shooting like a crazy guy with a machine gun. And they get up maybe 14-15, but I'm not entirely sure after this embarrassing showing yesterday. Steph cannot come out, only play 20 minutes, and score 11 points. Kuminga can't come out, only score 13. Jimmy can't come out, only play 22 minutes, and score what? What was it? It was, I believe, 11 points? It's unacceptable for a team that's supposed to be a championship contender. And if this continues to be the way, they're going to fall back. And by the end of November, they're going to be nowhere near where the predictions are, because they can't compete with these bigger teams. We saw what happened on Friday against the Nuggets. We've seen what happens against bigger teams, say like the Kings. And the Kings are just not even that good of a team right now, and they still were able to beat the Warriors. This team has to address these issues, or else things are going to get out of hand. We know what they need to do. Yes, they can't trade Kuminga right away until January, but they can make smaller moves and signings to bring guys in that can actually help out the roster. Because this team has way too many guards, and they can move those guards off for some big men or some other front court help, yet they choose not to do it. And I anticipate this Spurs game is going to be another example of their shortcomings. And I don't want to see it. I want to see them win tonight against the Spurs. I want to see them win on Friday against the Spurs and really show that last night's game was a fluke, but I am very concerned that that's not going to happen. This Spurs team is very young, very fast. They've got great leadership, and they know exactly what they are doing. So fingers crossed for tonight, because it's either going to go really well or really bad from the get-go. God help us, because we need that help. Man, but anyway, bottom line is, as I said, they need to address these issues before things get out of hand. And as I said before, there is a lot of positive to continuity, but facts are facts. If you're constantly playing a guy in the middle who is 6'9" against guys who are constantly 7 foot, big is big, and you can't teach height. No matter how strong or tough, like say Trace Jackson Davis is, no matter how strong Horford is, no matter how strong Draymond is, using his leverage as a smaller center, the fact is you can't teach height. And at a certain point, when you're this tall going up against guys who are this tall, it's like you're basically playing, just up and down. You grab the ball up here, and Draymond can't get it. Trace Jackson Davis can't get it. And as tough as Horford may be, all you have to do is wear him down because he is older. And yes, Quentin Post is a 7-footer who could stretch the floor, but he's not tough enough to really get physical with the likes of, say, Vooch, let's say Isaiah Hartenstein, as it was shown, or even Chet Holmgren. God help us when it comes to Steven Adams, Clint Capella, as well as I can't remember his name on the Rockets, Alperen Sengun. that's going to be a big issue moving forward, and the Warriors have to address this issue, and especially tonight against the likes of Wemby. Wemby is 7'6", and he could dunk the ball on his tippy toes. What happens if he gets the ball at, say, the logo or just behind the three? You think Quentin Post is going to be able to block that? No, because Wemby is going to be able to score. And on top of that, say Wemby switches on to Steph Curry because the Warriors aren't that big and the Spurs have a bunch of bigger guys that can keep up with the rest of the Warriors. Steph's not even going to get into double digits. The Warriors need to address these issues before it's too late, because if they don't and things get really, really bad going into December, I mean, you might as well shoot for the lottery, because at this point, there is no way they're going to bounce back from this. Like, you knew what the issues were going into the season, and you did not address them. Yes, there was high hopes because of continuity, togetherness, and so on with that momentum from last season, but to be honest, it looks like that momentum has waned, and you've got to find a new spark that helps you compete with the rest of these teams, because going into January, if you're, say, I don't even know, this is middling below 500, this is not going to be a team that can make the playoffs, let alone compete for a championship. So they need to address these issues quickly. I don't know how they're going to address them, but Mike Dunleavy, Joe Lacob, they need that reality check and say, hey, Al, you're playing every game. Sorry, buddy, we're going to limit your minutes, but you're playing every game. You can't do this no back-to-back nonsense anymore, because we need you in this lineup. When we have the entire bench playing and they can't even make a dent into the Thunder's lead, especially when it was, I believe it got over 30 points, ended up winning by 24. So they need to do something before it's too late, or else, you know what? This is a lottery-bound Warriors team. Now, that's all we have today for Warriors Latest. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you enjoyed the show. And if you have any just thoughts on trades the Warriors need to make in order to address these issues that I haven't already mentioned, feel free to comment below, as I love hearing your ideas, because the Warriors have to do something. I don't know what it is, but they got to do something before it's too late. And as always, go Dubs.